Heyo, my name is Sarah, and today I'll be doing a book review on The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman, second book in his Dark Materials series. Right off the bat, I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. This book was interesting. That's really how I would describe this book. It was interesting. And also because I watched the season 1 of his Dark Materials, that also made so much sense, and it kind of helped me understand what was going on in this book, because again, like I said, they were probably putting stuff from book 2 in that TV show, and after reading this, like, oh, okay, so I'm not completely lost. I completely understand what's going on. So our main characters, they are of course Lyra, but then we also get Will, who's kind of from our world, but because of certain events that happened in his world, he had to go on the run, and he meets Lyra in a different world because he found like a little window and he went through, and that's like where our two main characters meet, and it just, again, it gets very interesting. We also have different point of views as well, which expand what's going on in this book, because we also have Lee Scoresby, who is looking for Grumman, who in the first book we believed was dead, but that's where the mystery began. Like, is he really dead? Then we have the witches coming into the other world where Will and Lyra are, and we get to some backstory on this world even more because we have some weird things going on. There's mentions here and there of what Lord Asriel's doing, so he's that character in the distance that just keeps getting all that hype without even seeing him. So, you know, once we see him again possibly in the third book, then things are about to go down. And again, we have Mrs. Coulter, and she's just being evil as she usually is. I liked how the different point of views like expanded both Lyra's world and the two worlds that Lyra and Will were jumping through between our/his world and the other world that they met. I really like the character for Will because, again, he went through so much before the book, and the events that happened again leading up to the beginning, that kind of like just showed such a character in him. Like he was kind of cautious, a lot more mature than his age, and he knew when things had to get done, he had to get it done. And Lyra, I will have to admit those parts weren't my favorites, because again, she's like a little bit impulsive, but it's like it kind of led the story along. As for the book itself, it was pretty good. It was a good second book, a good lead up from the Golden Compass. There were times where I was going in and out, so it's like not really enjoying those parts, and it was just like another stepping stone on getting to the next part in the plan, so it's just like a check. All in all, again, the best way to describe this book was interesting. And that's as far as I can get into non-spoilers. The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman, second book in his Dark Materials series. 3 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers. Spoilers. Now, like I said, the season 1 of his Dark Materials on TV, they kind of delved more into Will's backstory, and he would always mention what was going on, like, you know, in past tense when he was like just in that mindset. But because what happened in the show, I was able to get the full grasp, because we start off with Will taking his mom to safety and talking about how there were people always around their house looking for something. So it's like, okay, I know what's going on. Boreal's men are, you know, doing their thing, looking for his dad. And of course, he finds what he needs at the house. He accidentally kills someone, and that's gonna like play like a big thing. And later on, because that's why he's very now reluctant to come back to his world, because he knows that he killed someone, so there's gonna be police officers after him. And so when he follows a cat of all things, he goes into a different world that really had, I would have to say, a Moroccan feel, but also spirited away, because when he gets there, there's no one around. Like, you know, the evening before the spirits came out, and it's like completely empty, but there's like food everywhere. That's what it felt like. So I was like a little nervous. I was like looking around the corners like, is this safe? Are we allowed to touch things? Because here's Will just taking things that he kind of just like he needs, not what he wants, and he's like just exploring the town. I'm like, I'm still nervous. I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop, and it kind of does, but in the form of Lyra, because apparently she's been here for a couple of days and there's been no one around. So that's the very first interaction with people in this world. back in Lyra's world, you know, after Lord Asriel cuts a hole in the sky, fog is spewing out and everything. But Seraphina Pekkala, she follows Mrs. Coulter, and that's where we get a little cameo of Boreal. I was like, oh, Boreal! Because I kind of liked him in the TV show. They do have a witch in their custody, and because witches have this weird ability that can make them invisible as long as they focus their mind, meaning I would never be able to master this ability because I'd just be like, oh my god. She follows Mrs. Coulter and some members of the church down, and they try to interrogate this witch because they're like still wondering, why is this child Lyra so important? What is her true name? I'm like, oh, we have true names in this world. This is gonna be interesting. But before the witch can give away any information to Mrs. Coulter, because we know she can do a lot when given the opportunity, Seraphina Pekkala kills that witch before, you know, the name is revealed. So it's like, whew, we dodged that bullet for right now. What we did find out is, like, through some conversations, like at a witch gathering with Lee Scoresby, because, you know, he's there, we found out that, like, Asriel has plans to defeat the Authority, which is God. So he, like, plans to, you know, raise an army and battle and win what the Fallen many thousand years ago had failed to do. Okay, you go do that, son. While Lee Scoresby, he believes that Grumman is still alive and there's something very important about him, so he's gonna go look for Grumman, while the witches decide to go find Lyra, who's in this new world, and just like wherever Lyra decides, we'll go with that. But there's some witches that want to know what Asriel's like kind of up to and everything, but they still go with Seraphina. Just like, you know, things are starting to set into place. Let's get ready for this mental game of chess, people. Now, in this different world that Lyra and Will are in, there's like a bunch of kids, not many adults around, and that's because they have what's called our specters, these dark, ghostly things that only adults can see, and if they like get you, they kind of like suck the life, the soul out of you and just like leave you there standing like an empty husk. But again, the kids can't see this, so it's like children of the corn going around here, and I'm like, I don't like this world, especially with me, because I have, you know, I'm in adulthood, so I would probably die. So it's like, let's get out of here. Lyra knows that Will is important, but she also wants to find out more information on the alethiometer. And after discussing things with Will and comparing her world to his world, they like, you know, talking about the similarities, the little differences. And so Will decides to not only go back into his world to try to find out more information on his father. Lyra goes there because they go to the same university at Oxford, I believe, and she looks for, you know, professors, physicists, and all that stuff at the university. And of course, she does run into a Boreal without knowing, but she also consults with the alethiometer, and they meet a woman named Mary Malone, who, as a professor, as a scientist, you know, you have to have those grants to continue with your research, and we're about to lose that. But her research somehow pertains to the alethiometer, and oh my god, this interaction, people. This woman, Dr. Malone, she just meets Lyra and automatically tells her her life's work after Lyra says, I'm from a different world, and she shows the alethiometer. This is where parts like with Lyra's point of view is that I kind of got a little, I would say, irritated. I just kept shifting around. I'm like, okay, like this would actually happen, because again, Lyra's like a little bit impulsive. She shouts things, she runs on emotions every now and again, and then when she meets adults, you know, and she just like says something, they automatically just get these 10 long dialogue paragraphs going on explaining everything to a child that they just met. And I'm just saying, because that's just like, really, you just met this kid. Are you really gonna tell her your life's work without any physical evidence that she's from a different world? We find out that this woman's working with something called a cave, and how it operates is kind of similar to the alethiometer, because Lyra tests it out and she's able to communicate with using the symbols, and the lady's like, this has never happened before, breakthrough. And Lyra's like, I'll be back again, because something weird is going on with this cave. It has like a connection to dust. While Lee Scoresby is in his world looking for more things on Grumman, because he's following trails, following rumors, you know, and it's leading him to a possibility of actually finding Grumman, Seraphina and the witches do encounter the specter specters because they can see them, but the specters can't, like reach up into the sky. They do witness an attack on a, I guess you could say, a little caravan, and some adults do survive, some don't, and they said this is their job. They're supposed to survive in order to lead these kids onward if their parents, get caught by the specters. Very hazardous jobs. We find out that the specters originate from the city, the town that Will and Lyra found. They came in through the portal and they came into this city or town, and that's where the specters came from, especially in a tower that's like in the center of everything, because a bunch of men that were very into discovering things, they came across something that they never expected, didn't know how to use it, they used it, and things went wrong, and the specters were released into this world. Oh, and by the way, angels are real. So when I heard about that, I was like thinking, are these the good angels or the bad angels? And by that I mean the good angels that are willing to help for the greater good and cause, or the angels from, Fallen, where they weren't exactly good, especially to the Nephilim children. I never knew how to pronounce that last name, but it was like Thomas Sinensky or something like that. They did little mini series on ABC Family with Paul Wesley from Vampire Diaries. First 2 episodes were okay. The last one was like but if y'all know what I'm talking about, y'all know what I'm talking about. But no, one of the witches goes with the angels. They're pretty chill. And they said they're being summoned to this area, and it leads to Lord Asriel. And it's like, oh my. This is definitely getting interesting. Of course, Lyra has to go back to see Dr. Malone so she can test out the cave once again, try to get more answers. And things just aren't gonna go right the second round if the lady's like ushering you somewhere else besides the lab and like, what's going on? That's when I would have hightailed it out of there, especially if some people in uniform were asking me like, yeah, let's just ask you a few questions. No, I would have booked it. I would have been out of there yesterday. But no, Lyra goes into a room, answers questions, and she accidentally gives up Will identity because they're looking for Will because he killed some people. And it's like, damn it. She makes a run for it with the assistance of Dr. Malone. But either way, people know about Lyra and Will now. So that's not good. And again, Lyra, this is not a good idea to do when you just met a certain gentleman, Lord Boreal, at a museum. Y'all had an interesting conversation about skulls, and all of a sudden a Rolls Royce pulls up, and it's him, and he's like, get in, I will help you. No! That is red flag material. I don't know what else is. I am just saying, Lyra, that was not a good choice. That was not a good decision, because of course when she gets back to the world that Will is staying at and he's going through letters from his father, she gets very, very emotional. Both I'm gonna kill something and what have I done emotional, because this man, Sir Charles, Lord Boreal, he stole the alethiometer. And Lyra also tells Will, yeah, she accidentally gave you up in his world because, questions. So we could have avoided this whole situation if the moment that Lyra smelled something fishy and thinking she's a great liar, but apparently she's not because people lie better in Will's world. No, she should have just left. Say, I gotta go. And done some interesting rough version of parkour because we know that girl is wild, and just booked it. I am sorry, this book could have been like ended right there, or it could have gone like different routes. Like, yes, let's choose option B instead of option A route. That's all I have to say. Lyra, bad call on your part. That's what you get for thinking that you could outdo this situation. Will and Lyra do return back to Will's world to retrieve the alethiometer, and they find out Lord Boreal is a Sir, so of course he has all that authority, and he of course knows about Will's little predicament because he sent his people after Will's family. I'm just saying, they don't know that either way. And Sir Charles Boreal gives them a choice. He gives them an ultimatum. He says, I need you to go back to that world because I already believe that you have found it, considering where I dropped off Miss Lyra. And I need you to retrieve a certain item. And they're like, what item is this? And they're like, it's just a simple little, I guess, like a knife of sorts. And if you bring it back, I shall give you the alethiometer. That is all I shall tell you. Either y'all go get it, or I can keep this because I have the power too. And no one will believe you. And I'm just, ooh, I just want to punch this man, but then again, TVO Boreal, I really liked him. I'm just saying, for a character, I really liked him. So I'm actually really excited to see these interactions. I'm just like, ooh, my skin is crawling. And Will notices the demon in Boreal's sleeve, the little snake, and he's like, oh, no wonder he's not shocked about Pan shifting and everything, because he has a demon, but Lyra doesn't see it because there's a snake hiding in his sleeve, so of course you're not going to see that. Either way, we have to go back to the world where Children of the Corn are and try to retrieve this knife. Everything comes to like a center because the knife is in the tower, and we found out, you know, where the specters originated from the tower and from the people that, you know, were doing things in the tower. The scholars and the, you know, of course, open Pandora's box and evil came out, and we're not going to get the good things at the end of this box. No, we did not. And we have to try to get the knife in there. I do not feel comfortable going up a creepy tower with a possible person that was like, you know, Batmaning it on the top of the roof, because there's an incident that happened earlier, because Will found the same cat that led him into this world. Kids were like, you know, cats are the sign of the devil or whatever, let's get rid of it. So there's not many cats in this world. We'll save the cat. And at the same time, Lyra noticed someone up there on top of the tower, just like looking down. It's like Batman style. But there were these kids earlier that we met named Angelica and Paulo, and they were saying how they had an older brother, and that's like the end of that. I completely forgot about that. But the older brother, he is older, so specters can affect him, but he's in the tower and he has the knife, and he's not okay. I mean, like, where, let's continue to go. He does not see us, okay, because he's walking around brandishing a knife, a single little knife. And we find this older gentleman saying, yeah, he's trying to open like a window. And we're like, what are you talking about? But we don't get that because Angelica's brother finds them, and we have this fight a lot on top of the upper floor of the tower. And this guy is really strong. Lyra and Pan are having troubles. Will is doing the best that he can. Fists are thrown, Pan's going, yeah. Over here, Lyra's going, yee. Over here, Will's going, I'll fight you. And it's like, it's just a big mess going on. And it ends with Will getting the knife and the kid taking off. But without the knife, he's not protected anymore, because that's what's keeping the specters away. So we watched down below through Lyra's POV of Angelica and Paulo finding their brother, and he's trying to do something to try to keep the specters away. It doesn't work, and he gets captured, and his soul is like taken, and Angelica swears revenge. So now we have Children of the Corn coming after us. And also that Will has the mark of the bearer of their knife, which means he lost a couple of fingers. But now he can wield the power of the knife, because this old man gives us speed round tutorials on how to use this knife. Two different sides. One side can cut anything, and the other side can cut through the fabric of time and open up windows to different worlds. Oh, and Will can also close those, but he has to concentrate in a way that works with the alethiometer. How Lyra has to, like, you know, open or focus her mind and imagine what she wants. That's the same thing how the knife works. So I'm thinking, you know, some little ties between the knife and the alethiometer. Either way, Will, his hand keeps bleeding through this whole last part of the book, but he manages to do that. And I'm like, okay, now that we have this, there's no way in the world we're giving this to Sir Charles, Lord Boreal. So let's use this to our benefit and get the alethiometer. I'm like, okay, this is actually a good plan. I'm actually all for this. Let's be sneaky in a way where we actually do have a plan to fall back on. I'm all good with this. So while we are putting it into effect, plan sneaky, we do get back to Lord Boreal's place. Will, it's like he's opening windows, like partially to see where he has to keep going in this other world to try to get it just right, to get the alethiometer in his world. And at the same time, Lyra's on the lookout. I always say that if you have a plan, you need a lookout. No matter how much you don't think you need one, you need a lookout, and a good thing, because Lyra has to go back into the other world to warn Will, who just found out the alethiometer isn't in where it's supposed to be. She's like, Mrs. Coulter's here! Mrs. Coulter's here! Of course this woman is here. I mean, why wouldn't she be? She's Mrs. Coulter. She can do anything because she's speaking with Lord Boreal, and she's trying to get information because she not only was drawn into this world by Lord Boreal, she knows that Lyra would not part easily with the alethiometer, so she's trying to get information while Boreal is trying to get information on Lord Asriel. But of course, adults don't know the audacity of children, because with the plan still in motion, Lyra goes back around the house, distracts them with some pebbles, and Will grabs the alethiometer, and we're like, let's get out of here. Lee Scoresby does find Grumman, and as we figured, he is Will's dad. And he's a shaman, so with special abilities. And he says, I brought you here. I need you here. I need wings to fly. And Lee Scoresby takes him back into the other world, because apparently that's where Grumman ended up with his people on the expedition, because they came across a window and they went through it and they didn't know what to expect in this world. So, you know, his people were getting attacked by the specters, and he barely managed to survive, but he realized that the window to his world had been closed up, so he came through another window that led to Lyra's world, and that's where he took up the name Grumman. He developed a demon, as I guess one would do. So if I go to Lyra's world, do I get a demon? Because that would be an interesting adventure, just to do that. And he just learned that way of the world, and he just like, you know, just decided to wait until he felt it was time to return. And apparently that was now, because Lee Scoresby showed up. It's like, yes, let us return to that other world because I must find the bearer of the knife. So I'm like, yay, reunion. I don't think I like how it's about to happen, but yay, reunion. So Will finally has his dad back. And as I said, we had a Children of the Corn moment between Lyra and Will and Angelica's people, because, you know, you killed my brother, you have the knife, destroy them, eliminate. And things aren't, these kids, yeah, they're very imaginative on ways how to try to get them out of the tower. And they won't exactly enter the tower, but they know how to attack other angles. It's like, no, we can't escape either, because we're too up high, and if we jump somewhere, we're gonna die. So we are stuck. We have no ammunition. These kids are coming again and again and again. We need a plan, and the plan is Seraphina shows up and saves the day. Yay, Seraphina! Even Lyra's like, Seraphina! She hugs her and everything. I missed you so much. Thank you, lady, because we were about to be killed by a bunch of children. Back in Will's world, Lord Boreal is tying up a few loose ends, and that is by collecting the information of Dr. Malone's, you know, research, and giving her the option of either staying on board and let him do his things, or you can leave and I will have complete control. Which I'm like, the smart thing would be to stay on board and like make sure things don't go out of hand, do some influencing. But no, Dr. Malone's like, I am out. But at the same time, she goes back to where the cave machine is, and she fixed it enough to actually communicate. And this, we're close to the end of the book, and I found this like, oh my god, this was really, really, really interesting, because how she was communicating with it, I was like, oh my god. And it's almost like talking to an AI, I would guess, in a way. But either way, the cave, this weird computer system that operates similar to Lyra's alethiometer, is communicating to Dr. Malone, and they have a very interesting conversation where my mind's getting blown left and right. Are you shadows? Yes. Are you the same as Lyra's dust? Yes. Is this dark matter? Yes. What I said to Oliver this morning, my idea about human evolution isn't correct, but you need to ask more questions. So we know that shadows, I'm guessing, and Lyra's dust, they are connected. So I believe that shadows were like something that like lingered around these human skulls in the museum. And like it was like development of consciousness. I believe that's what it was. The mind that is answering these questions isn't human, is it? No, but humans have always known us. Red flag right there. Us. There's more than one of you. Uncountable billions. And what are you? Angels. Angels are talking to us through a communication system that's like very technological and everything. And I'm like, do I want to trust this? Angels are creatures of shadow matter, of dust, structures, complications. Yes. So angels are connected to dust. Okay, let's go with that. And shadow matter is what we have called spirit. From what we are, spirit. From what we do, matter. Matter and spirit are one. I'm like, okay. Let's just continue on. And did you intervene in human evolution? Yes. Why? Vengeance. You intervened with human society based on vengeance? Vengeance for, rebel angels. After the war in heaven, Satan in the Garden of Eden. And it isn't true, is it? Is that what you find the girl and the boy? Waste no more time. But why? You must play the serpent. And the conversation goes on. Chad, the angels are telling her to destroy all of this work so it cannot be used again, and that you must deceive the guardian at the tent, which means that Lord Boreal set a postcard at the window, and she has to get through that into the other world where all the specters are. But either way, angels are behind everything. Of dust, of dark matter, of shadows. I'm like, interesting. But I would also have thought that because the authority is, God, I would have thought that there would be different ones, not one being that controlled all worlds in its creation. I would have thought it would have been different gods. So, not one ultimate power. But apparently, it's one and the same. And we find out some creatures from Lyra's world are bleeding in because we see those well ghasts or whatever they're called in here. And we also meet the witch again that went with the angels, and she was telling what she saw at Lord Boreal's castle. And I was like, different warriors from different worlds, different creatures from different worlds, different times in history that are affected differently from different worlds. And they're all here gathered under this one man. I'm sorry, but I was getting a little bit of this feeling, especially when they said different warriors from different worlds. I'm just saying, I got a little bit of this feel. I just got to throw that out there. And the witch tells the group that Lord Asriel needs this one thing or person that we don't know of. It could be a person, it could be an item. But that, I could never really pronounce the name correctly. And the only way I could say it was Isedar, something like that. It was like spelled interesting that I couldn't get the proper naming for it, but I called it Isedar. And so Lord Asriel needs this, but Seraphina says, my allegiance is to Lyra. I will go where this child goes, and that is to help find Will's father. And the witch is like, I understand this, but I shall go follow Lord Asriel. And doing so, I'm going to go back to our world, talk to the witches, and try to get them on our side. So paths, divide. And I feel like in the third book, there's going to be a big witch battle. I don't know how I feel about this. I am nervous. Either way, that's how things are slowly ending in this book. Lee, Scoresby, and Grumman make it into this world, and so do a bunch of Zeppelins that are chasing them. Y'all are chasing a little balloon people. And by doing so, Grumman uses his shaman abilities, and he sends not only a specter up to take out one Zeppelin, he has his demon, the Osprey, who can go very long distances, almost like a demon switch. And he also controls a bunch of birds to attack another Zeppelin, as one would do. I'm like, oh my god, this is getting a little creepy. And he summons a storm to take out another one. So it's like 3 down, 1 to go, but that's all he could do. And I was like, okay, we got this. We got this, we can do this. And it's now a game of cat and mouse with Lee Scoresby and Grumman and this other Zeppelin, because they get spotted and they're so close to their goal that they split up. With Lee Scoresby, holding off the attacking group while Grumman goes to find the bearer of the knife. And he's thinking this is like the Alamo, especially when we were kids playing. I was like, no! Do not go into that mindset, because no matter how many people say remember the Alamo, remember how the Alamo ended. We do not need that. So Lee, with only one gun on him with a certain amount of bullets, and all these other people, part of Magisterium, coming after him, it's a showdown between wit and aim. Hester's doing her job Lee is following her orders, everything. He's taking them out one by one. He gets shot. He's able to keep going. He keeps taking them out one by one by one. He gets hit again. He's down for the count. He thinks he can't keep going on, but he still keeps going. He still keeps firing no matter how many times he's injured. Hester's there by his side, encouraging him on. We can do this. And with the final bullet in his chamber, he takes it out on the Zeppelin with the retreating soldier. It goes up in flames, takes out all that's left. And then he dies? Lee Scoresby went out Alamo style? No! He had the flower. He had the flower that Serafina Pekkala gave him. She called when needed for assistance, when help. And she senses that and she leaves Lyra's party. But it's too late. He dies? He dies Alamo style? Am I have to watch Lin-Manuel die on television? Because I am not all for that. No. No. Please tell me there's a creator's choice saying no. Let's make sure this dude lives, because the second to last chapter in this book, the last sentence ends with, and they died. No. No, 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 no. No! I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept it. That's all I'm saying. I'm refusing to accept that Lee Scoresby dies in the TV show. That's all I have to say. We discover that Estar is the knife, the soul knife, and Lord Boreal wants that. Well, he's not going to get that because Mrs. Coulter, not only has she, of course, found a way to control the specters, apparently, she kills Lord Boreal by poison, and she sensed the witch that was there, and of course she ordered the specters to get the witch's demon, and she gets the information that she wanted at the very beginning of the book, and that was Lyra's true name and why she's so important to the witches. And her name is, drumroll please, Eve. And we know about Eve and her story with the serpent. And so Mrs. Coulter's like, everything is so clear now. I must go get Lyra. And not only does she kill the witch via specter, so we know what happens with that, she also gives them the ability to now go up in the air. So the witches aren't safe nowhere. With everything wrapping down to the final pages, Will does meet Grumman, and he tells him that you must go to Lord Asriel. Lord Asriel needs your help because he needs the knife, apparently. And there's that one split moment where Grumman turns on like a lantern, like, you know, hold it, and that second, that flicker of recognition, they both know who each other are, and then he dies again. What's it with you killing these characters with the moments like these? Because Grumman and Will realize that who they are to each other, and then the witch who was spurned by Grumman by not being taken as his lover kills him, and then she finds out that that was Will's dad, and before he can harm herself through demons, she kills herself and she dies. And I was like, huh, a lot just happened within this page and a half, people. Oh, by the way, Will sees the angels and they're there because they had to protect Grumman, and he's like, why didn't you protect him after that moment? It's like, he already gave you the information that he needed to give you, and that's the mission, so there's no more point in protecting him, but we must now take you to Lord Asriel. And we also find out, yeah, Will wants to go get Lyra, and the witches that were guarding Lyra, because Serafina went to go see Lee Scoresby a little too late, they're just in that daze that we all know so well, because the specters got to them, and Lyra's missing. And the angels want Will to go with them. And he's just confused on what to do now. And that's where the book ends. As well as the spoilers. Again, the word I would describe this book was interesting. It was a good follow-up to the Golden Compass. I will give it that. We were introduced to this other new world. It's like a little pit stop, I will say to that, as well as the item that we were looking for, the subtle knife. I was more interested on Will's journey as well as our little side characters, Lee Scoresby. Not as much as Serafina because we didn't get a lot of her and she was already on her way over here. So again, I was more interested in Lee Scoresby's journey of finding Grumman and Will not only navigating his world and the other world, but also finding clues as to his father and also becoming the bearer of the knife. Lyra, again, was impulsive a little bit, making decisions that we could have easily avoided, but she's also realizing that she's growing up because she's choices that Pam said you would have easily done this a long time ago. She's like thinking, well, maybe it's not a good idea to do that. At least she's learning from experience, and she's like saying, you know, maybe that's me growing up. Mrs. Coulter, of course, has the power of all things, and she now has control of the specters. She has soldiers that are demon cut, that are following her, that aren't affected by specters. She's just giving this power left and right. And now she has Lyra, which is not good because now we know her true name is Eve. If we're going through biblical ways, we know what happened with Eve, and we know how the church is. So that's not good either way. Lord Asriel, even though we did not see him, he is gathering a huge mass of warriors from different worlds. Again, my point standing. And we're just getting ready for this throwdown with the Authority. And I have to say, the third book, it's going to be very twisty. The third book, I have a feeling it's going to be very twisty. Either way, again, this was a good follow-up to the Golden Compass. It's setting all the pieces down on the board so we can begin our attack chess-wise. And that's how I feel like the third one's going to be. It's going to be very calculating because we have so many things ready to go down that we now have to start putting them into play. And I can't wait for the second season, people, of His Dark Materials. That's gonna be fun to watch. And yeah, The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman, second book in His Dark Materials series, 3 out of 5 stars. My name is Sarah, and bye.